The committee noticed a committee business meeting on January 14th, 2026 to consider the contempt report for President William J. Clinton held on January 21st, 2026. I will mark that notice as Exhibit 6. I will mark as Exhibit 7 the contempt report for President William J. Clinton voted favorably out of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform on January 21st, 2026. I will mark as Exhibit 8 the final roll call vote sheet favorably reporting the contempt report of President William J. Clinton out of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform on January 21st, 2026. The committee noticed today's deposition on February 19th, 2026. I will enter the notice for this deposition as Exhibit 9. I will enter as Exhibit 10 in the email thread between Committee on Oversight and Government Reform staff and counsel for President Clinton and Secretary Clinton. The email thread confirms the date, time, and location, among other terms, of today's deposition. Additionally, this email thread clearly states the agreed upon terms, including but not limited to video recording, no predetermined time limit, and scope. The agreed upon scope from the email marked as Exhibit 10 is as follows. Pursuant to the committee's investigation into the alleged mismanagement of the federal government's investigation into Mr. Jeffrey Epstein and Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell, the circumstances and subsequent investigations of Mr. Epstein's death, the operation of sex trafficking rings and ways for the federal government to effectively combat them, ways in which Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell sought to curry favor and exercise influence to protect their illegal activities, and potential violations of ethics rules related to elected officials, the committee will ask President Clinton and Secretary Clinton all of its questions regarding Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, including, but not limited to, the personal relationships between the Clintons and Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell, and the ways in which Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell sought to curry favor and exercise influence, as well as the operation of sex trafficking rings and ways for the federal government to effectively combat them without the proposed limitations on scope sought in your January 31st, 2026 letter. Can the witness please state his name for the record?
William Jefferson Clinton.
Thank you. My name is Jack Emmer, and I am the Chief Counsel of Investigations for Chairman Comer. Under the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform's rules, you are allowed to have counsel present to advise you during this deposition. Do you have counsel representing you in a personal capacity present with you today?
I do.
Will counsel please identify themselves for the record?
David Kendall, Williams & Connolly, LLP.
Catherine Turner, Williams & Connolly, LLP.
Cheryl Mills, counsel to the president.
Thank you. Starting with the majority, can members of Congress in attendance please identify themselves for the record?
Billy.
Go ahead, sir.
Members Comer. Yeah, James Comer, Chairman of the Committee from Kentucky.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, South Carolina.
Eric Burleson from Missouri.
Congressman John McGuire, Virginia 5.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from Florida's 13th District.
William Timmons, South Carolina.
Blaine Groveman, Wisconsin.
Ranking Member Garcia, California.
Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, New Mexico.
Congressman Suhas Subramaniam, Virginia's 11th.
Congresswoman Emily Randall, Washington State.
Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, Arizona's 3rd.
Congressman Maxwell Frost, Florida's 10th.
Congressman Wesley Bell, Missouri's 1st District, St. Louis.
James Walkinshaw, Virginia's 11th District.
Ro Khanna, California 17th.
Lauren Boebert, Colorado's 4th District.
Thank you. For the record, starting with the majority staff, can the additional staff members please introduce themselves with their name, title, and affiliation?
Billy Grant, Deputy Chief Counsel for Investigations for Chairman Comer.
Peter Spector, Deputy Director of Oversight for Chairman Comer.
Daniel Ashworth, General Counsel for Chairman Comer.
Ryan Giacchetti, Chief Counsel for Chairman Comer.
Will Harness, Professional Staff Member to Chairman Comer.
Hannah Cathy, Professional Staff Member for Chairman Comer.
Melvin Soto, Digital Director for Chairman Comer.
Olson Tellen, Counsel for Chairman Comer. Emily Feierabend, Counsel for Chairman Comer.
Mark Moran, Staff Director for Chairman Comer. Austin Hacker, Communications Director, Chairman Comer.
Ashley Ginger, Deputy Staff Director for Chairman Comer.
Thank you all. President Clinton, before we begin, I would like to go over the ground rules for this deposition. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then the minority will have an opportunity to ask questions for an hour if they choose. To the extent members have questions for the witness, they will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. The clock will stop if you need to confer with counsel. Your counsel is speaking, and when members or staff are speaking during the opposing side's rounds of questions. We will alternate back and forth until there are no more questions. Do you understand?
Yes.
There is a court reporter taking down everything I say and everything you say to make a written record of the interview. For the record to be clear, please wait until the staffer questioning you finishes each question before you begin your answer, and the staffer will wait until you finish your response before proceeding to the next question. Further, to ensure the court reporter can properly record this deposition, please speak clearly, concisely, and slowly. Also, the court reporter cannot record nonverbal answers such as nodding or shaking your head, so it is important that you answer each question with an audible verbal answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Exhibits may be entered into the record. Majority exhibits will be identified numerically. Minority exhibits will be identified alphabetically. Do you understand?
Yes.
We want you to answer our questions in the most complete and truthful manner possible, so we will take our time. If you have any questions or do not fully understand the question, please let us know. We will attempt to clarify, add context to, or rephrase our questions. If we ask about specific conversations or events in the past and you are unable to recall the exact words or details, you should testify to the substance of those conversations or events to the best of your recollection. If you recall only a part of a conversation or event, you should give us your best recollection of those events or parts of conversations that you do recall. Do you understand?
Yes.
You are required by law to answer questions from Congress truthfully. This also applies to questions posed by congressional staff in this deposition. Do you understand?
Yes.
If at any time you knowingly make false statements, you could be subject to criminal prosecution, including but not limited to perjury. Do you understand?
Yes.
This includes both knowingly providing false testimony, but also stating that you do not recall or remember something when in fact you do. Do you understand?
Yes.
Furthermore, you cannot tell half-truths or exclude information necessary to make statements accurate. You are required to provide all information that would make your response truthful. A deliberate failure to disclose information can constitute a false statement. Do you understand?
I do.
Is there any reason you are unable to provide truthful testimony in today's interview?
I don't believe so.
Please note that if you wish to assert a privilege over any statement today, that assertion must comply with the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Pursuant to that, Committee Rule 16C1 states, for the chair to consider assertions of privilege over testimony or statements, witnesses or entities must clearly state the specific privilege being asserted and the reason for the assertion on or before the scheduled date of testimony or appearance. For the purposes of this deposition, objections must be stated concisely and in a non-argumentative or non-suggestive manner. If the witness refuses to answer a question to preserve a privilege, the committee may seek a ruling from the chair. If the chair overrules any such objection, the witness shall be ordered to answer. If the witness continues to refuse to answer a question despite being ordered to do so, the witness may be subject to sanction. Do you understand?
Yes.
Ordinarily, we take a 5-minute break at the end of each hour of questioning, but if you need a longer break or a break before that, please let us know and we will be happy to accommodate. However, to the extent that there is a pending question, we would ask that you finish answering the question before we take a break. Do you understand?
Yes.
Finally, I will note for everyone here today that the contents of what we discuss in the deposition today is confidential under the House Deposition Regulation. Under the rules, the chairman and ranking member shall consult before any release of testimony or transcripts, including portions thereof. This means it is a violation of House and committee rules to disclose the contents of the deposition prior to its official release. For this reason, the marked exhibits that we will use today will remain with the court reporter so that they can go into the official transcript, and any copies of those exhibits will be kept at the table or returned to us when we wrap up. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly declare and affirm, under the penalty of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you have any questions before we begin?
No.
I have a comment before we begin, please. Mr. Chairman, I want to start out by saying, as you know, yesterday there was a photo released, and I appreciate you assuring and admonishing the committee and all of us of our obligations. Obviously, we want to ensure that that doesn't happen again. We've obviously experienced a number of deep fakes that have now been circulating on the web, not because of anything that the committee did, but because of the release of this particular photograph. And for that reason, I would ask two things. One, a reminder to all that the obligation to maintain what is occurring in this room occurs. And two, a release of the video of the Secretary's testimony as soon as possible, ideally today, which was in 24 hours, and the same for the President, so that there are not deep fakes that are representing what is happening here when they actually have not.
Yeah, and let me say, yesterday that was an unfortunate situation. We had probably two things that shouldn't have happened. The release of the photo, as well as a Democrat member communicating with the New York Times. So I will again remind everyone to refrain from sending pictures or texting with media outlets outside. Melvin is our videographer, and we're getting he's doing this today as well as producing the video, so we'll get them out hopefully as soon as possible, hopefully within the next 24 hours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Nothing more.
Mr. President, do you wish to provide an opening statement?
I do. It's brief. First of all, good morning and welcome to all of you to our hometown. I appreciate you coming here. I'm here today basically for two reasons. First of all, I love my country and the Constitution, and I believe America was built on the idea that no one is above the law, especially presidents, and that we should all live by the same set of rules shaped by the Constitution. Democracy requires every person to play their part, and I hope that by being here today, we can bring ourselves a little further away from the brink and back to being a country where we can disagree civilly and search for the truth and justice, and that outweighs the partisan urge for spectacle and point scoring. I will do my part, and I hope you'll do yours. The second reason I'm here is that the girls and women whose lives Jeffrey Epstein destroyed deserve not just justice, but healing. They've been waiting too long for both. Through my brief acquaintance with Jeffrey Epstein, though it ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our limited interactions any indication of what was going on, I'm here to offer what little I know so I can do my part to prevent something like this from happening again. I have to just say one personal thing. Since Hillary came in yesterday, she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing. There's a picture of us both shaking hands with him in a photo line in 1993 at a fundraiser for the White House Historical Association. I don't know how it is under President Trump, but when I was there, it was about the most non-political operation you can imagine. There were people who loved the White House, who were interested in it, would give a little money every year to do things that needed doing around the house. And nothing nearly as extravagant as the ballroom or any of that, just things that had to be done. And neither she nor I remembered shaking his hand all those years ago. So I don't think that was right. On the other hand, I do think you should be talking to me. I think you should have called me. I did take those plane trips with him, and you have a right to ask those questions. So I'm glad to be here, and I understand what the oath is. I have to be honest with you. You know, I'll be 80 years old if I live to my next birthday. I don't remember everything that happened 24 years ago, but I do remember some things, and I will tell you what I remember as best I can. We, each of us, owe the victims nothing less than the truth and accuracy. We owe that to the American people. And I actually hope that you will be able to come up with some suggestions that will reduce human trafficking and especially focus on underage girls. I hope you'll be able to do that. I know that Hillary talked a little yesterday about what the State Department does and what she pushed on human trafficking and girls when she was Secretary of State. We had to deal with it. And in my foundation, I saw it in Nigeria when Boko Haram was rampaging through the north of Nigeria. And we were working there trying to stop deaths from diarrhea for young children. And it was interesting. These guys were cold and calculated. They said, oh, you don't have to leave because the kids you're helping are younger than the ones we want. They have to be about 9 before they're worth anything to us. So this is really important. And I will do what I can to make whatever contribution I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
The time reads 11:28, and the majority's time will begin now. Mr. President, thank you for agreeing to testify today and for your years of service to our country. I want to start from the beginning. When did you first meet Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, I will try in this testimony, and I will point it out when I'm aware there's a picture or something that predates it. There's a picture which shows him shaking hands in the White House Historical Association reception. That was in 1993, but I'm not aware of that. I first remember meeting him when I got on his airplane to take the first trip with my foundation in, I think, 2002, whenever it was. But
and to be clear, do you have any reason to believe that you may have met Mr. Epstein prior to becoming president of the United States?
Before I became president, no.
And you mentioned that your first memory of interacting with Mr. Epstein was on your first trip. Which trip specifically?
I'm not sure which one it was. Which one was the first? I took all or part of 4 or 5 trips to Asia and Africa and one to Northern Europe on Mr. Epstein's airplane. And once when I was in Florida, I was offered a ride back to New York, but I wasn't there having an, it was just coincidental that he was there, and I think that was fairly early in the process. I don't remember exactly. I just know that I did. I took one flight back from Florida to New York, and all are part of several other, I think 4 or 5 trips to Africa, Asia, and one to Northern Europe.
And I want to make sure the record is clear. Is it your testimony today that you have no independent recollection whatsoever of the circumstances of when you first met Mr. Epstein?
Objection asked and answered. You can answer again.
Yes, I do have a recollection of when I remember meeting him before this trip. I mean, on this trip when I took his plane.
Mr. President, we're going to discuss more specifics later, but for the record, can you briefly describe the nature and extent of your relationship with Mr. Epstein?
Well, sometime after I left the White House, either in late 2001 or early-ish in 2002, I received a call from Larry Summers, who had been on my economic team and was later Secretary of Treasury and was then president of Harvard. And he said that he was calling because a man named Jeffrey Epstein, who had made a substantial commitment of several $1 million, I think it was 10, but whatever it was, I don't, to brain research, and that he was a information hungry person, and he wanted to spend some time talking to me about economics and politics. And he said he's got this massive airplane, and he said he would take you, your staff, your Secret Service detail, and anybody else you wanted to bring on the trips that he knew I was planning to set up a global network to provide life-saving AIDS medicine to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And I should back up and say, when I left office, we had done all the preliminary work to set up the global funds on AIDS, TB, and malaria, but it was not yet funded. And there were other instruments and institutions who were later founded, including President Bush's PEPFAR program. It had not yet been funded. There were only 200,000 people in the entire developing world who had AIDS medicine. Most of them in Brazil, which had a big drug operation on its own, and in Thailand, which also had its own drug population. In Africa, there were like 30,000 people or something, just next to no people. And they were dying like flies. And I thought we had found a way to drastically drive the price down. And that if we could drive the price down, we could, and empower people to administer the medicine right, we could save a lot of lives. And I was obsessed with it. And I was being helped by a man named Ira Magaziner, who had helped us in the White House, and whom I had known since we lived as Rhodes Scholars together in the 1960s. So anyway, that's why when Larry Summers said this, I thought, boy, this would be great. And so we followed up and took the trips.
Mr. President, when did your relationship with Mr. Epstein end?
When did it end? Well, I believe I took my last flight in 2003. Now, later I became aware of some involvement he had in the first Clinton Global Initiative, but it was much later.
Why did your relationship with Mr. Epstein end?
Well, after a year or two, we really picked up a head of steam with this AIDS program, and a lot of other people whom I knew better and who really cared about the work came forward and offered to help us provide transportation. And I thought Mr. Epstein was an interesting man, but I didn't think he was really interested in what I was doing. That is, he asked all these questions. He did ask about economics and politics, as he said he would. And he never asked me anything untoward. It's just that I thought I had done what I promised to do, and he had done what he promised to do. And I thought I'd always, over the years, with these donors, tried not to overstay my welcome. I thought that we'd done enough, and then it's time to start working with other people.
When did you first learn of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes?
I think in 2008 when he was prosecuted. There's nothing that I saw when I was around him that made me realize he was trafficking women, and I never.
Let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell. When did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
I believe I first met her with him when she was working with him.
And what did you understand Miss Maxwell, and what did you understand her relationship to be with Mr. Epstein?
I thought she was sort of his chief of staff or administrator.
And you said that you first met Miss Maxwell with Mr. Epstein. Is that after you were president?
Yeah, I don't believe I met her when I was president. I couldn't have. I met a lot of people, I don't remember. But I definitely remember meeting her on that first flight.
Can you briefly, for the record, describe the nature and extent of your relationship with Miss Maxwell?
Yes, it was. It lasted longer and was more extensive than my relationship with Mr. Epstein, because Ghislaine Maxwell started going with a man named Ted Waite, who had made a lot of money making the first sort of self-designed computers. And he was a big supporter of mine and the foundation before he started seeing Ghislaine. We'd been friends, and he was interested particularly in reducing pollution in the oceans. And so when she started going with him, I would see her from time to time.
And when did your relationship with Miss Maxwell end?
I don't think I've seen her in a decade. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't know exactly when.
Why did your relationship with Miss Maxwell end?
Well, at first she moved to Boston, I think. She had a relationship with a man there, and I think they may have married. And so she wasn't so much around, and then when it became, after 2019, when it became obvious that she was involved too, to an extent that I did not know, that was the end of it.
And I want to make sure the record is clear. You mentioned that your relationship with Ms. Maxwell was more extensive than that of Mr. Epstein.
Well, it lasted longer, yes.
Okay. When do you have any recollection of what year it would have ended?
No, but, you know, when she was with Ted White, she was when we were kicking off CGI. She was very interested in that, and she participated. But I don't remember, I don't know, it's been 10, 12 years since I saw her. I don't remember when the last time was.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you some baseline questions regarding who you communicated with and about what. If you don't recall specifics but do recall you communicated with them, you should answer yes, but say you do not recall specifics.
Okay.
Counsel, can I just ask, if you're going down a list, your question is, did he communicate with the person, yes or no? And then you'll come back if he says yes to ask further.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I will finish the prompt here too. So the question, Mr. President, have you ever communicated with any of the following people regarding Mr. Jeffrey Epstein or Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell? And for now, you can say yes or no, and we will come back to discuss each one.
And this is to the best of his recollection, yeah?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
First, Richard Kahn.
Richard who?
Kahn.
T-O-D-D?
K-A-H-N.
I don't know who that is.
Darren Indyke.
Indyke?
Correct.
I don't know who that is.
Sarah Kellen.
I don't know who that is.
Uma Abedin.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. President, the question is, as I understand it, name the people you communicated to about Epstein and Maxwell.
Oh, obviously I know Huma very well. I don't remember any specific conversations we ever had about Epstein and Maxwell.
Noam Chomsky.
No. Mr. Chomsky wasn't a big fan of mine. He thought I was too conservative.
Leslie Groff.
Leslie who?
Groff.
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Nadia Marcinkova.
I don't know who that is.
Jean-Luc Brunel.
I don't know who that is, I don't believe.
Alan Dershowitz.
I know him. And I'm not aware that we ever talked about Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't believe we did.
Reid Hoffman.
I know Reid Hoffman, but he never talked to me about Mr. Epstein or Miss Maxwell.
Karina Shuliak.
I don't believe I know who that is. I don't think I've ever met that person.
Woody Allen.
I do know who he is, but I don't think I ever met him, and I never talked to him about Epstein or Maxwell.
Sandy Berger.
Sandy Berger was my national security advisor, and we were very close personally, but he's been dead for several years. And I don't think I ever talked to him about either one of those people.
Jess Staley.
Jess Staley?
Correct.
No.
Paul Morris.
I don't believe I know him.
L.E.D. Rothschild.
Who Rothschild?
L.E.D. Rothschild.
L.E.D.?
Mm-hmm.
I know Evelyn Rothschild. Is that who it is?
No, and I have other Rothschilds on this list as well.
I'm not sure who L.E.D. Rothschild is. I've met a bunch of them when I spoke at the funeral for Evelyn Rothschild. And I had met some of the others, one couple in France once 20 years ago, but I don't remember him.
Okay.
Lynn Forrester Rothschild.
Yes, I know her, but I don't remember ever discussing Jeffrey Epstein or Glenn Maxwell with her.
Glenn Dubin.
I don't believe I know him.
Eva Anderson.
I don't believe I know her.
Casey Wasserman.
I know him, and he was on a trip to Africa with me. But I don't recall ever discussing either Glenn Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein with him.
Ira Magaziner.
Yes, I think I mentioned him earlier. He was the person who basically helped me start the AIDS program, and he ran the Clinton Health Access Initiative for many years. He retired a couple of years ago, a few years ago. But I don't remember ever discussing either Epstein or Rothschild with him, or Maxwell with him.
Karen Ewing.
No.
Stacy Plaskett.
Stacy Plaskett is the member of Congress from the Virgin Islands, isn't she?
Correct.
I know her. But I don't recall ever discussing Epstein or Maxwell.
Howard Lutnick.
Howard Lutnick is the Secretary of Commerce, right?
Correct.
I know him and from 9/11, and because Hillary worked with his company and helped him to get going again. But, and I know he's now President Trump's Secretary of Commerce, but I don't remember ever having any conversation with him about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell.
Doug Band.
And he worked for me for years. And I know that he arranged like airplane flights and things like that, and was doing work on the first Clinton Global Initiative in 2005. And I know that he knew both Epstein and Maxwell. I do not know to what extent he was in contact with them. And I've heard things in the last thing I didn't have any idea 24 years ago. So you'd have to be more specific if you want to know if I knew something then. I can tell you as best I can, but he worked for me, and I knew some of what he was doing, and I didn't know some of what he was doing.
Thank you, and we will return to Mr. Ban. Louis Free.
I do know him. To the best of my knowledge, I didn't have any conversations with him about anything practically, but I certainly didn't talk to him about this.
Robert Rubin.
Bob Rubin was Larry Summers' predecessor as Treasury Secretary and the first director of the National Economic Council. But I don't even know if he knew Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. I had no conversation with him about it.
And for now, Mr. President, you can answer yes or no.
Okay.
And the yes or no is intended to convey whether or not you had a conversation about Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein.
Correct.
So the answer to Rubin is no.
Larry Summers.
Yes.
Pete Rathgeb.
Pete who?
Rathgeb,
Rathko, R-A-T-H-K-O?
R-A-T-H-G-E.
Oh, Rathko. I don't recall that name.
John Podesta.
I don't believe I ever had a talk with John about it. I did stay in touch with John Podesta after I left the White House. And I consider him a friend, but I don't believe we ever discussed Epstein or Maxwell.
Andrew Friendly.
No, he was one of my, what you call body men at the White House. And we've stayed in touch over the years, but I don't remember discussing Epstein or Maxwell with him.
Catherine Rumler.
Kathy Rumler is a lawyer who has done some, on occasion, some help for the foundation. I don't believe I ever discussed Maxwell or Epstein with it, but I can't be sure, but I don't remember doing it.
Mr. President, they're only asking you what you can remember.
What?
They're only asking you what you can remember.
Mark Middleton.
I did not, and he sadly is dead now.
Bill Richardson.
No, he's dead too now, sadly, but I didn't know about his relationship with Epstein.
George Mitchell.
No.
Bill Gates.
No.
Leon Black.
No.
Ayud Barak.
No.
Tony Blair.
No.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
I knew that he knew, at some point I knew that he knew Ghislaine Maxwell. But I did not know, I don't think, that he knew Epstein.
So is that a yes that you had communications with him?
No, we never had any.
Is your question communications about Epstein and Maxwell?
Correct.
Just generally as a conversation like you're together? Can you just elaborate more so he can better answer your question?
Mr. President, did you ever have any communications with Prince Andrew related to Mr. Epstein or Miss Maxwell?
The direct answer to your question is no, but I don't want to mislead you. I know that because of my friendship with Evelyn and Lynn Rothschild, and because the former prince was around them, and they knew Ghislaine Maxwell from Britain, and through her father, her late father. There may have been some conversation there. I don't remember it, but I don't want to mislead you. I knew something that.
Thank you.
Your question, because it's so broad, means that any social engagement that you might have would be captured.
Yeah,
so I think what he's trying to distinguish between is what you're trying to learn and just social engagement.
Yes.
If I had a social engagement with Andrew?
Related to Mr. Epstein.
Not related to him, no.
Thank you. Peter Mandelson.
No.
Mohammed bin Salman.
No.
Larry Page.
No.
Sergey Brin.
No.
So let's talk about Larry Summers. You mentioned that you had communications with him related to Maxwell and Epstein. What were the nature of those?
For the record, he said with Epstein, just to clarify.
Just Epstein.
Just Epstein. Thank you. You mentioned that you had communications with Larry Summers related to Mr. Epstein. Can you describe the nature of those communications?
Yes. As I said before, he called me on the phone. He knew what I was trying to do with this AIDS work and how important it was to me. And he said he had just talked to Jeffrey Epstein, who he's described as a successful investment advisor who made a lot of money and had made a large commitment to Harvard to brain research. And he said he wants to talk to you about politics and economics, and he says if you will take an hour on the longer legs of these trips he knows you're going to make to Africa and Asia to talk to him about it, that he will fly you on his airplane, and your staff, and your Secret Service detail, and any other people you want to take who are supporting your work.
And you mentioned these communications were related to the work of your foundation. Did you ever have any other communications with Larry Summers related to Mr. Epstein?
No.
So for the record, you never discussed anything related to Mr. Epstein and young women or girls?
Absolutely not.
Mr. President, for the record, have you ever been contacted by any law enforcement agency concerning Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell?
As far as I know, no. That is, as far as I remember. Back in 2008, I sort of thought somebody might ask me something. Because I was glad this had come out since it had happened. But I don't believe anybody ever did.
You mentioned that you thought someone would want to ask you something. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Just because he let me use this airplane.
And to be clear, have you ever provided any information to any law enforcement agency concerning Jeffrey Epstein or Miss Ghislaine Maxwell?
So you asked this question before, you're just asking him to reiterate the response to the question that he previously asked you, Mr. President.
I don't believe any law enforcement agency has ever asked me. And I didn't know enough to volunteer anything.
Mr. President, are you aware of any efforts by anyone, including an attorney, process server, investigator, or any other person to contact you regarding any civil lawsuit, claim, or litigation involving Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell?
Not that I recall.
Did Jeffrey Epstein ever inform or represent to you that he was working with any intelligence service of any nation, including the United States?
No.
Did Ghislaine Maxwell ever inform or represent to you that she was working with any intelligence service of any nation, including the United States?
No.
And during your relationship, did you ever suspect Epstein or Maxwell of being affiliated with any intelligence agency?
I did not.
Thank you. I want to talk about your time in the White House. I realize that you have testified, your recollection is limited, but did Mr. Epstein ever visit the White House while you were president?
Objection, asked and answered.
The records reflect that he did.
That's not the question.
According to FOIA requests to the Clinton Library, Mr. Epstein visited the White House at least 17 times between 1993 and 1995. Do you have any reason to dispute those numbers?
Nope, I don't.
Do you know what the nature of Mr. Epstein's visits to the White House were?
Are you asking what he knew in preparation for today? Can you clarify what you are seeking to learn?
First of all, at the time, I had no idea he was coming and going. Huge numbers of people come and go in the White House. A lot of them come well over once, especially if they're lobbyists, for example. But I didn't know he was coming, so I certainly didn't know what he was coming about.
Mr. President, after you left office, did you or your staff ever conduct a review of records, documents, or other materials related to Mr. Epstein's connections to your White House?
You're exempting counsel. You can respond to that, but don't say anything about what you talked to your lawyers about. You can respond to his question.
Do you need the question again?
Yeah, I don't even understand. You mean, did we look into what he did in the White House after I left office?
Mr. President, one of the concerns of the committee is how Mr. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell attempted or potentially attempted to curry favor with influential figures. My question was, after you left office, did you or your staff ever conduct a review of records related to Mr. Epstein's connections to your White House?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
At this time, I would like to introduce what will be marked as Majority Exhibit 11. And while it's being passed out, I will note for the record, this is a New York Times article entitled "The Untold Story of How Jeffrey Epstein Got Rich," published on December 16th, 2025. And when you receive the article, I want to direct your attention to the last paragraph of page 31.
The last paragraph of which page?
31. And when you are ready, I will also read it into the record. Again, we are looking at page 31 in the last paragraph, and I will read it into the record and ask you a few questions.
Please give him a moment to read his.
I see this.
This is the paragraph he wants to ask you guys.
Mr. President, the article reads, by 1995, Clinton and Epstein were sufficiently chummy that he wrote a get well soon note to Epstein's ailing mother. Hang in there, the president scrawled on a yellow post-it, which Epstein saved and we reviewed. Mr. President, did you write this note?
Are you asking if he recalls writing this note from 1995 on a post-it?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Just clarify.
It looks like my handwriting, but I don't recall, but I will tell you this. I have written get well notes to lots of people I did not know and had never met.
And you answered my next question. Did you ever meet Jeffrey Epstein's mother or any of his family members?
No, I'm not sure that I was asked to do this by Jeffrey Epstein.
And I want to focus specifically on the article's characterization. It says that you were chummy with Mr. Epstein in 1995. Is that accurate?
No. I'm going to object to that. It's a characterization. It's hearsay. The president may answer.
No. I was surprised by that.
Let's talk about your relationship with Mr. Epstein after you left the White House.
Okay.
How would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Epstein?
Mr.
Well,
President, he has a question for you.
During the time it was cordial.
At any time, would you characterize Mr. Epstein as a friend?
We were friendly, but I didn't know him well enough to say we were friends.
How often did you communicate with Mr. Epstein?
Usually only on the trips. I did go to his house once, as you know.
And we will discuss that further later on today. And how did you typically communicate with Mr. Epstein? Did you talk to him on the phone?
Excuse me, he just said he talked to him on the trips, so that's in person.
Typically, my staff communicated with with him. I think it was mostly Mr. Band, but somebody talked to him.
And you mentioned that you visited one of his properties. But outside of the work on the foundation and your trips, how many times did you meet in person with Mr. Epstein?
You're asking him to the best of his recollection.
Outside of the trips, I believe he came to the office once in Harlem. I was still at the house up there then. And I think he paid a brief visit to the office. And I paid a brief visit to his house. When I once thought he was there, but now that I think about it, I don't think he was. And that was it. I mean, I didn't. That's what I remember.
And you mentioned you visited Mr. Epstein's house. Are you referring to his New York townhouse?
Yes.
And your communications with Mr. Epstein, did you ever have any communications that were not related to the foundation?
I don't believe we ever talked about anything but the work we were doing. I mean, maybe small talk. I can't imagine. I don't remember the conversations.
And for the record, before we move on, did you ever have any communications with Mr. Epstein that related to young women or girls?
No.
Excuse me, do you have your, fantastic, thank you very much.
We're good? Good morning, Mr. President. How are you?
Fine.
I want to first start out by asking you, have you ever been or traveled on, or has Huma Abedin ever traveled on Epstein's plane?
If you know.
I don't know. She might have taken one of the trips with us, but I don't know.
Okay, so have you flown on a plane with her?
Oh, several times.
Several times?
Can you say, have you flown on a plane, any plane?
The Lolita Express.
What is that when you say that?
Have you flown on the Lolita Express with Jeffrey?
Objection.
I don't know what that is.
Have you flown on Jeffrey Epstein's plane with Huma Abedin?
Asked and answered. You may answer again.
I don't remember, but I have phone. She's been sort of a part of our family for a very long time. So when I went to the Middle East, which I don't think I ever took a plane ride with Jeffrey Epstein, but she would typically go when I did.
So have you traveled with both of them together?
Excuse me, both of whom, Congresswoman?
Of course. Have you traveled with Jeffrey Epstein and Huma Abedin together?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you. If the staff can please pass out EFTA 0021628 and the rest of the documents I have them print regarding passports to the President and Council.
This will be Exhibit 12.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, if you look at the passport page, the bottom of the document should show the EFTA number. It's 00021628.
Yep.
There's a name on there. Would you be able to read that name to me?
Can you read the name?
Excuse me, Congressman,
Yes.
will you
can
ask
read
me
the
if you've ever seen the document before?
Yes, well, this is evidence, and so I wanted to ask him specifically. So it's from the DOJ document release, right?
I understand, but he may not have seen it, or he may have seen it.
No, I've never seen it, but it looks like a passport.
Okay. Can you tell me the name that's listed on the passport?
Excuse me, he's never seen this document. Would you just read the name, please?
Yes, the name is Marius Robert.
Marius Robert, yeah.
Are you familiar with that name at all?
No.
Okay. Would you be able to identify the individual in the photo?
It looks like Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, the reason I ask you about this specifically is because I do believe that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence operative. And so this was a passport that was actually entered in and released by the Department of Justice, but this was an FBI filing. It was found in his safe, if you will. So it's an alias. So the reason I ask you that is because given your nature and position, I'm wondering if you were essentially targeted by a honeypot operation and or by intelligence to gather information. So that's why I asked you that question.
Well, if it was a honey,
Mr. President, there's not a question pending.
I have, is there a question?
No. You can ask a question.
Well, I'll be getting to more, but that's the reason I asked that. Okay, my next question for you is, have you ever had contact with an individual by the name of Shantae Davies?
I believe Shantae that's a distinctive name, and so I think that was the name of one of his flight attendants.
Okay. She's been described on being on a 2002 Africa trip and providing massages. Was she or any other young female on that trip underage at that time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Did you ever receive a massage or have physical contact from her or anyone else on that trip?
You've seen the pictures. There was one time when I was sitting up and I got a back rub, a neck rub.
Okay.
And I think Shantae did it, but I'm not